This.
I'm going to go ahead and record this because I don't want to miss the information we're getting here. So you actually had two groups of people there, and you just took the ferry back and forth.
Yeah, there was an extra duty I got saddled with for a while.
Did one of those camps close out for one reason or another during your time?
Yes, I think they moved that. The Cambodians became a Mike force, and I think they moved them somewhere. I don't know where. I can't remember.
Did you lose any of the Americans when they moved them to the Mike force? Did any Americans go with them?
No, it was another unit of personnel that moved in.
Okay. Do you remember the name of Don Viet as the name of the camp? All the 4 Corps camps had signs on them with a Vietnamese name.
No, I don't.
Okay. So, okay, that tends to make a little bit more sense now, because there seem to have been 2 A teams at that airstrip, and having you over those red circles makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, we had our own airstrip over there. That was the one we used. It was I guess it was kind of northwest of the camp.
Okay, on the north side of the waterway. What are we going to call the waterway, by the way? That wasn't the canal. That wasn't the Vinte Canal yet. The Vinte Canal is further up the waterway.
There was a canal that was off the waterway, but that was a separate thing. The waterway, I can't even remember the name of the river, but it was a pretty powerful river.
I'll go back to that.
We took some Coast Guard patrol boats up that river one time.
Rak Yang Tao. It looks like Rak Yang Tao.
That doesn't sound familiar at all. What I can't remember is all this water right here.
Well, apparently this you could wade across it depending on what the season was.
No, that was a swift river. Water was really flowing down it.
Well, some people were saying maybe it was just this side of it here. Larry, you have any comment on that?
No, I'm kind of a late arrival.
Okay.
I didn't follow all that, and I've tried to bring up your page with the names of everybody at the camp, because I'm old and can't remember names and so on and so forth. So as folks come up.
Yeah.
I was there a short period of time. I was a boss Y, like February through July. So I'm kind of I don't want to call me a newbie, but I'm a novice in a lot of this.
Okay. Well, were you? When were you at 405 or 421?
Okay, 421. Isn't this 421?
421 was its early name.
Okay.
And later 421 was Boss Y.
Well, when I was there, it was 421. It was Boss Y. I was there. I got there in like February of 70 and left in July of 70.
Yeah.
I was a REMIF. I spent all my time as a REMIF. I was there probably a year, never got shot at, and I had to volunteer to get to an A camp to extend.
What was 405 then?
Can you hear me? Yeah, 405 was the recon company for B-40. And that was in late 69 and opening into 70 a little bit.
And I was at B40, so I was familiar with 401 through 405. I was the S5 at B40.
Okay,
for a
that's
period of time.
where you come in there. Let me stop this share. I may open B40 and then share. Share. That we'll have the session after this. We'll move on to B40.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm aware of that.
so B40 is here, and you were.
I was at B40 from roughly February.
You're right here. Can you see the?
Yeah. I was the S5 at B40 from February of 69 to hell, I don't know, for about
I
6
have you
months.
till August or so.
And until they found out I could read and write, and they moved me up to the C team as assistant S1.
Where was B40 located?
That was at that time of Canto.
Right.
Right across the airstrip within walking distance of the C team.
It was south of the airstrip.
Right. That's where, and also A-405 was located there.
Yeah.
They brought most everything up there to the C team or to
Right.
Canto at some point.
Is Bruce Lombard on here?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, because he was the team leader of A-405. He was my team leader.
Yeah. Well, he was here a couple of days ago on at another team. So I'm not sure when or if he's coming here today. People have been on and off on their showing up.
Mhm.
Open B40. B40. Okay. All right. Now here is Canto over here, and we'll zoom it in a little bit.
Mhm.
And so you got C4 up here, and you got the B40 over here. And while it started out just as the headquarters element, it ultimately absorbed all the other battalions, or most of the other battalions.
Mhm.
So by 1970, virtually everybody was there. I don't know where they put them all.
I know 405 was down at the end of the airstrip.
So there was a plan, and they just weren't all just jumbled together.
Right.
Well, so there must be more to this map. I don't know what the date is on the map. When you say the end of the airstrip, you mean this side over here to the west or over to the east?
To the west,
Over there, okay.
at the far end of the airstrip, because it was pretty much country and rice paddy type thing beyond it.
There was a little canal, little river here, not a canal. That's a river.
Okay,
That sound right?
that sounds right. I know it was out there, but it was beyond
Yeah. And there was
beyond the camp.
a road coming up here.
I don't think I used that when I used the road that was from the C team that ran. Let's see, that would have been east towards Bentui airstrip.
Well, there's
The Air
another
Force,
one,
the
there's another one
Air
over
Force
here.
base.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
So there's two roads that go through the C team.
Okay. And there was the one that headed on out there. I didn't get to know the C team that well. Is You already had B-43, I think.
We had a
Or did
section
you?
for B-43, yeah.
Because, yeah, I bounced around. I was on A-413 Ben Tantone for, wow, probably 2 years in split. And then I went to 405 Recon Company. Then when they dissolved that, they split us up as recon people out to the different battalions. And I went to 402 and stayed with them out there in the tram out, but we were operating out of B-43 in March of 70 when I was wounded, and I never got back to A-402. They assigned me to the I guess the C team, because since I was a medic, they assigned me out to work at Ben Tui Airfield at 3rd Surgical with the Special Forces doctor until I left country.
Dennis,
Yes,
you were the XO in 67. And
that's right.
it seemed to be just after it formally became A-405. Prior to that, it was 421, I guess. And it became the Airborne Training Center and the LERP Training Center about a month before you got there. Were you aware of those events?
No,
Were you still in Ha Tien at the time?
we were in Ha Tien.
Okay. Did they move during the time you were there, or were you always at Ha Tien?
I got there early July of 67. And I stayed there until sometime in October, late October. We turned that camp over to the Vietnamese. We disposed of all of our equipment, and basically A-405, the A team, was no more. We all went to other assignments.
Okay, you did formally move to Canto?
No. As far as I know, I mean, I went back to Canto, but 405 was not intact.
And what year was that?
That was in October of 67.
But
Okay,
it was already being called 405 at the time.
It was A-405 when I got there in July of 67.
Okay.
Yeah, they reformed 405, and I don't know the exact date, but it was in 69 at Canto as Recon Company.
Well, they had people there in 60. Well, maybe there was a break until 68.
Okay.
From October of 67, possibly to November of 68, that camp may have been closed. Insert rows. Well, let's see who yet here on this session. See if we can find anybody who can answer that question.
What's the
Yeah.
question?
At the time Dennis left the camp, when Dennis left the camp, Stephen Olson was the CO and Dennis was the XO. And there's nobody following him for almost a year. So it's possible that camp was closed for a year before they actually got before they got to Canto.
Well, as I recall, when I was at Canto, when I was at the B team in the spring of 69, A-405 was there. It was, or at least it was assigned to us.
Yeah.
And I knew the people there until I left.
By October of 68, it was in Canto.
Yeah. I can't go back to October of 68, but 6 months later, when I got there, I know that it was at Canto.
And I was there in '69, A405 in Canto, and one of the people that we had at A405 was the nurse that was out at Tien. She then was in A405 and she was our nurse there. And she had a baby that was fathered by somebody from the team out at Tien.
Wasn't me. There was no nurses when I was there.
Ah, she's a pretty little thing.
Who, the baby or the nurse?
The nurse.
Tom, what's the last name?
Nelson,
Ah, yes. Should remember from yesterday.
yeah.
Uh, So you're not taking responsibility in any way.
No, I don't even remember.
That's a good defense.
Yeah, well, I got complete deniability.
All right, but
Does
when
does
you,
anybody,
by your time here, you came there around the time it seems to have reopened in Canto. Do you recall you joining 405 as a functioning team or just a team that's beginning to be reestablished?
It was just beginning to be reestablished.
Okay, so I think that,
Lieutenant Vitale recruited me.
okay, good. That sounds like it fits. There was an Edwin Corbett that seems to straddle the period that the camp was closed, and I don't know what we're gonna do about him because he isn't there. I never found him, so I guess it's not gonna matter all that much.
Well, we were, since I lost that picture. No, we were just established in Canto at that point, and then
Okay.
Lytel wanted to make a recon company out of it, so he asked me to join since I had been in the Rangers.
yep, so you remember the recon company also?
Yeah, well, I was, he had just got it started. Lytel, anyway, I don't know what was happening before, but he said, we're gonna start a recon company. And I'm like,
Right, and what was that, when was that?
Let's see, I got there in September '68, and then I was over in Nui Koto over in the border for a couple of months, and then I came back into the B team, and then that's when, so it must have been somewhere around October, November, December, somewhere around there.
Of '68,
Yeah.
okay, because I got there in '69.
Well, I left
And
it,
okay, you left there when?
September of '69.
Okay, that's about the time I was coming in. Right about that time as I got to Recon Company. James R. McKay, myself, there was Bruce Lombard was the commander. Do you remember him?
No, it was all under Lytel when I was there.
Okay, Lytel was just leaving.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we just passed by each other.
mm-hmm.
And I don't know why on the list of Stephen, on the list of people you have a Lieutenant Johnson as an XO.
Questionable, but that's in 65.
Well, there was a second one when I was there in 60.
That was Frank Johnson. He's a different guy.
Oh, all right, because he wasn't there that long.
No.
He came in, let's see, sometime after Nui Koto in March. So about April, only stayed a week or two. I mean, he stayed a month or two, got himself promoted up to be assistant to Colonel, who's the colonel in Trang at the time? And then proceeded, who then killed that double agent,
Oh, you're talking about Colonel Rowe then?
Rowe, that's it. And
Yeah.
he got himself attached as an adjutant to him, and he got up there, and then that scandal with Colonel Rowe came, and I guess he got shipped off somewhere else. So he was only with us a couple of months. Probably about 4 months before he thought he was getting himself promoted. He pulled some string somewhere. And then you have something about Master Sergeant Burns, as if you don't know where he is, or I'm trying to look at the list without dropping out. He was with us the whole time, although
Is that Frank Burns?
Frank Burns, yeah.
As
Yeah.
I recall, he got in a pissing contest with a lieutenant when I was there in the 69s. And as I recall, I don't want to step on any tails. I think it seemed like Burns had been there like 5 years, extended a
He'd
number
been
of
there,
Yeah, Burns had been there. He was a regular down there.
and he had an ownership in what we called the team house downtown.
Right.
that's
and
right.
And I think he got in a pissing contest with Rasmussen, who was the team commander,
Oh, yeah.
the first lieutenant. And I believe Burns left the service then because he was making so much money off the team house. And after the country fell, I always wondered what the hell happened to him. So,
Yeah, I don't know. He had his own international harvester vehicle. He ran the team house with his booze, gambling, and horrors. And he was
that's Burns. That's the one I know.
yeah, and then he would go to Supply, get beer for the B team, and then he'd talk his way through the security with no records, and he would just abscond with it, take it down, and resell a team house.
Mm-hmm.
And he was living a kind of a roguish life, half off. He even had apparently some kind of apartment down around Canto.
I remember that well because I was there when I don't know what happened, but I think he got in a fight with Rasmussen and left. And as I recall, he had been in country like 5 years.
Yeah.
He really liked it there. So
Yeah, he was one of those guys who just kind of immigrated slowly but surely.
He became a native.
All right, so Burns was then before Ramos
Uh,
and after
Yeah.
Aller.
well, there was Lytle, Johnson, Burns, Fuller, Steppe, and Copeland, and we also short time Heineman was a medic, but he only stayed a month or so.
Who was that?
Burns would have been there like in the summer of '69.
Yeah,
Before and after that, but when I was there, it seemed to me like things blew up maybe in the fall of '69, and I think he
about
left the service then.
September.
Exactly. That
end of
makes sense.
September. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a very personable guy. I liked it, but I don't. He got crosswise with Rasmussen up above James A. Rasmussen, the first lieutenant.
Well, that would have been pretty easy to do. Rasmussen sort of had a history that way.
Yeah. Well,
I knew him, but
Burns-
I didn't know him well. I can't attest to that.
Well, I had to do a fair amount of, what would you call it? Investigation on Rasmussen.
Oh, and Rasmussen is deceased now.
He is deceased, yes, but
What does the YE mean?
Right.
that means, yes, I know where you are and I got your email.
Oh, okay.
That's a good status. DEC is not what you want.
Okay.
Well, that part I couldn't figure why either.
Y means, yes, I know where you are. YE means I have your email as well.
All right.
If you had a period after it, that means I've talked to you recently and your email's verified. If you have a semicolon, I talked to you a long time ago and I don't know whether your email works or not, but it hasn't bounced yet.
Well, all this has been edifying. When I go on and read your charts there, I see the A-421, and I always assumed you folks back in the 66 and so forth, I always assumed that was Bossy.
No,
Where I was at, and I went to Bossy in, you know, February of 70, when it was A-421. So this kind of confused me, but I understand it more better now. Over
well,
70.
4 core is enough to confuse anybody, because what happened was you'd set up a team and then they'd switch it to a different B team. So the numbers changed. The other core areas, they stayed pretty well standard. If you were 221, you were going to be under Quinion forever. But in 4 core, you got your numbers changed. You had 421, 405, you know, 411 goes, 412 goes to 411, and just it took me a long time to track all those down. And
You are to be commended.
well,
Yes.
it was, I got started on that part of it because when Kelly wrote his book on special forces, he had Nam Dong under 4 different names. Same camp, different TDY teams there, but 4 different names, 4 different camps. So that was true of everything that he had in that table in the book on all the camps. He had many more camps than there actually were in Vietnam. And what I started to do then was to track each team that came in as a team. When did you get there? Who did you replace? Did you split the team? Did you move the team? And who replaced you? And by going through that pattern, I was okay in all 3 other cores. When I got to 4 core, then I ran into the fact that from 65 to 70, the numbers started moving around like yo-yos.
You know, the person that was on A405 there, he doesn't buy, do you by any chance have the recon patch that they had for 405? Was red and black?
Yeah, I have it.
You do?
Yeah.
Could you go ahead and take a picture of it and post it here at Sherman's websites?
If I could, yeah, I suppose if I could find it, it's
Okay,
back
because I
up
went,
somewhere. Yeah, it's red
Yeah, I
and
went-
white and said "Sat Kong, kill communists."
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it said. And we had the red and black scarves.
Right.
Yep. And mine went by the wayside back in, I think, 1985. And I've been wanting to get a picture of that patch. And probably Steve could add it to his batches too, that showing that there was another patch.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those days, every team had its own scarf, an own color.
Right.
So you could distinguish who they were.
Exactly. And because when I got hit in March 4th of 70, I had shrapnel that went straight through that rolled up scarf right around my neck. And I kept that, kept it, and then it disappeared in 85.
You're Gerald, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Let
Okay.
me mention a few things here. One is some of the artifacts that we brought back from Vietnam are probably worth more than they paid us for the whole year in Vietnam. I had, for example, when I came into group, the sergeant major said, take your beret down to the tailor shop and get it embroidered. So I did, a couple bucks. And then I got a knife with my name on it, engraved and all that stuff that they gave me. I didn't think very much about it. My wife took the knife when we were living in Malaysia and she chipped the end of it, digging up some banana trees or something. I started going out talking to people, and they would ask me non-SF people ask me if I had the knife, I had a beret. And I'd say, yeah, but I want to keep it. And finally, I found out that, the beret was worth, I think it was $1,000 and $1,500 for the knife. Or maybe it was the other way around. And that's, I don't need it. I'm not about to give up the beret or the knife at this time, but my kids are having no interest in it at all. So I put a note right there and said, call Jason Hardy. He's offered $2,500 for the pair. So that's.
So I got one of those too. So
if it's embroidered, everybody's got a beret, but it has to be embroidered.
did you get a Seiko watch?
Seiko watch has value. I got that, but it's not specific to SF.
Well, that's what I was told when I got in country. I think it was Bowser. You had to go to see the group sergeant major and buy a Seiko watch.
That was Odom.
That's a name from the old days, Bowser and Odom.
No, Bowser was after the straight.
Say again.
Bowser was really a tremendous sergeant major. He didn't put up with.
Yeah, but he was the group sergeant major when I got there, and that's all I
He
was
was-
to go in and buy my watch.
Odom was the watch salesman. He, opened up his sleeve and bloop, there.
That's right.
But Bowser, one time somebody asked me, as I had been talking to Bowser, he asked me, "Is it true that you knocked the beret off of Lembert's head?" And I said, I've been asked to ask you this question, and he, huffs up there in a sergeant major style. He says, "I don't believe it's the person. It's the right of an NCO to touch the person of an officer." And that formally he denied it. But I could tell by what he said that what happened was he said, "Sir, take that beret off," and that's all he needed to do. So that was Bowser. When I have an argument, I have had a running argument with Bob Sorley, who's the guy who wrote the biographies of Abrams and Westmoreland. And Sorley says that no, Abrams didn't hate SF. Well, I have a different idea on that. But what he used as evidence is the fact that when he ultimately did hire a sergeant major after the scandal that had happened with the other sergeant majors, he didn't have a sergeant major for a long time. But when he hired one, he took Ron Bowser to be the chief sergeant major in Vietnam. So that's an indication of Bowser's quality. Bowser really was tremendous. Anyway, back to Odom. I had somebody at one of these meetings here say he bought in Okinawa when Odom was there. He bought a Rolex from Odom. Odom said, "You're going to buy a Rolex," and he said, "Yes, Sergeant Major." And they took it out of his pay, a little bit every month until he paid for it. And then he said, a couple of years ago, his wife said, "You've had that old watch for a long time. I'm going to buy you a new one for your birthday." So she bought him a new watch, and he said, "Now I got two Rolexes. What am I going to do with this?" He took the old Rolex down to the dealer. The dealer gave him like $16,000 for it. That was a considerable increase over what he gave Odom. So
800 probably.
if he thought that Odom was ripping him off, he was pleasantly surprised at the transaction.
Well, you could buy Rolexes at the China Fleet Club in Hong Kong for the standard Rolex was $150.
Yep.
And, I
The
bought
Mariner. I think it was the Mariner.
Yeah, that's name was $150, and I had bought some for some other people on the team. Gave me money knowing I was going to Hong Kong, and I bought a gold Rolex for $250. So
Jesus Christ.
yeah, yeah,
Those were the days.
it's worth more than that now. But,
I think it's about 45,000 now for the gold Rolex.
yeah, well, unfortunately, I had the option to buy a gold band or just get it came with a alligator leather band. And I didn't want to spring for another $100 for the gold bands.
Oh.
I don't know what happened to Bruce here. Look, I'm going to step aside here and turn on a map. The reason for this is Dennis. Okay, we've had some degree of argument here. Now, I think that originally in '65, the camp was right here on the north side of that waterway. And when you were there, is that where it was?
Yeah, best I could.
The red circles.
Yeah, I'm looking. It was up on a point. There was an old French villa there at top of the hill. You had to drive up, kind of wind around to get up there. And we had an LZ for helicopters that was down below, right, a little lower. But that looks like where it was. It was right next to the town. It couldn't have been more than, it wasn't more than a quarter mile from the town of Tien.
You had to take a ferry to get to the other side, which are the things further south. Down to this side, you had to go on a ferry, right?
Well, if we never went on a ferry over there, we had boats.
Okay, but you had to take a boat to get there. You couldn't.
Oh, yeah, I had to take a boat.
That's what I'm driving at. I want to make sure that the early camp was on that side.
The camp over there was that was the Mike Force camp.
And that was the Tochow camp that was 402 and 403, and they were down at the bottom of the hill.
I'm at 402 because we had 405 had the security responsibility for the area around Tochow. We'll say the Mike Force did all their fighting in other places, but we had security for that, and we had an FOB over there just across the water.
Right. I don't have the map sheet over here, but this is the 1/50 map sheet, and that's where 403 and 402 were, I believe, on that little airstrip, and they called it Hatien South. Now, this is where the red dot circles were. That's from the other map.
Right.
The waterway is coming down through here.
Yeah, I don't remember how far the other camp was from after you got off the boat there, but it wasn't far. I only went down there twice.
By the way, I'm going to just pop something in here. I just got a screen thing across. Queen Elizabeth just died.
Oh dear. Yeah, there was news about her illness this morning, but
Yeah,
an hour ago, it sounded like she was on her last leg, so.
yeah.
I saw her with the new Prime Minister Truss when she went to kiss the ring or whatever, and she looked real bad then.
no. I don't know what happened to Bruce. He hopped on and disappeared again.
When you said Bruce, was that Bruce Lombard?
I believe that's who it was.
Darn it.
Hey, Steve, could you refresh me on who do you show it as being at 405 in that time frame, starting say in July of '67 until we left?
Okay, so you and Olson, the officers there. Your team sergeant, I believe, was Belton. Does that sound right?
Well, yeah, Harry Belton, who coincidentally must have been the oldest sergeant major in the Army. Not then, but I had only been there about a couple of weeks. Went on the first combat mission with Harry Belton. His name there is Henry, but everybody called him Harry. And hadn't been out but about a day and a half, and we got a call that they were coming to get him. And we didn't know what was going on at the time. He didn't know what was going on, but they brought Billy Watkins. I guess he should have been on there.
Whereabouts?
Watkins would have been the at that time, I can't remember if he was light weapons, I think.
Watt's son. And he became team sergeant.
Yeah.
Billy J. Watson. Okay.
Yeah, Watson. I'm sorry. Yeah. Billy was one of those guys who went native. He had been there for several years and stayed on. He finally was killed. And later on, I was told that I know some people who knew him about the time he was killed. I think it was maybe a year or two later. But Watson was on the helicopter and replaced Belton, and that's when Belton went to the train to get promoted to sergeant major. And so he was a sergeant major in July of '67, and I saw him at Fort Bragg, and he was a big jumper. He was always, he had his parachute with him at high 10. He talked helicopter guys into taking him up so he could jump back into the camp. But so he was made sergeant major in '67 then, and I saw him again. I think it was probably about 1989 down at Rayford at the drop zone there, and he was still in the Army as sergeant major. So I say he must have been the oldest one ever. Yeah, I don't really remember other than Billy Watson and Harry Belton. I can't remember the names of the other guys who were there then.
Well, I'll go down the list here. We'll take a look at it. Because that you're really fixing things up here. That break, having the line to break it at is good. I don't know who Intel was at your time, but there should have been somebody. And then on weapons, looks like Osgood. Osgood was there with Watson. I don't know if anybody replaced him as in weapons. Probably only just had one weapons man after Watson went up.
Yeah.
And then going down to the radio operators, again, I've got Pittman.
Yeah, Pittman.
I don't know about this guy Corbett. Does that ring a bell with you at all?
No. We only had one radio operator.
Okay, so Corbett's really questionable entirely. I haven't been able to find him. So, and then in demo, Orlando Gore was there, and then I don't have any engineers after that.
Yeah, you've got him leaving in June of '67. So he was gone by the time I got there.
Yeah. Okay, so the medics, Wallavan and Milam.
Wallavan was, well, there again, you got him leaving in July 1 of 67, and I got there a few days after that.
Okay.
So I didn't know him. Same with Milam. If he left no, he got there, it says 67.
Yeah.
He may, I just can't remember.
Do you remember having more than one medic?
Yeah, Don Chase was the medic.
Okay, yeah, he's up here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chase and Milam take care of the medics.
Yeah.
How about this guy? This is not your time. Anybody know this Rules fellow?
Yeah. Nope.
How do you spell that?
RULZ.
Rules, no.
He sounds
know.
familiar to me, and I don't know.
Yeah, there
He
was a
should have been
rule.
Gordon, she should have been at your time.
Hey, and I'll
There-
tell you something about Don Chase. He got promoted to E8, and when we went out to Medan in January of 68, that was 416, and Chase at that time, he was the team sergeant, and he had a couple of nurses that worked with him in Tien. And when we went out to Medan High, he brought those two nurses with him to help out. And one of them was really, really good looking young thing. And I just can't help but wonder if that nurse that later turned up with a baby might have the last name of Chase.
In one of the camps we had, I think it was Medan High, there was a nurse who was married to one of the SF people. And she had been there from the opening of the camp to the closing of the camp. She had a lot of information
Mhm.
on
The-
what
Well,
happened.
there was,
She was hired at Medan High, so she's not a transfer from this camp. Or she
there
was
was a,
hired at whatever that camp was.
No, the
Go
only,
go
the,
ahead.
when we started that camp, we built the camp in January of 68. And the only nurses there were the ones that Don Chase had brought with him from Tien.
Well, it might not have been Medan High that we're talking about. It may, one of the other, may have been one of the other camps.
Right, okay.
So, but she was on the video for the camp. Maybe it was Mifukte. It was one of these landlocked or waterlocked or whatever you want to call it, camps with no roads or anything.
Right. Well, that's,
That's most of the camps in Delta.
yeah.
No, it's like BTT, Bintan Tone was landlocked.
Yeah.
We had no road. By the way, I'm going to come back to Rules. Rules, I knew a RULE rule that was in, I ran across him several times at B41. And the reason I remember him is that he had on a previous tour, had been hit up in his upper sinus, and he had a missing piece of skull, but it had been closed over. And when he would laugh or cough, it would sort of bulge out and back in.
Well, there was a Claude Rule that was also in SF, but he was mainly in 2 Corps, I think. Oh, I Corps and 2 Corps. But I'm pretty sure I found an obituary for Rules, RULZ. So that's
Oh,
the
okay.
proper spelling of his name. And he was at admin type, 71Q.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention was that I have two websites, specialforcesbooks.com and specialforcesphotos.com. I don't have a lot of imagination on naming websites. On specialforcesphotos.com, you can go up there and sign in using your whole name, Larry D. Lahman. Because if you don't do that, I get so many bots going up there that I get confused, and I just dump all the people who I don't recognize. But once you're there, I come by every couple of days. I check and I say, okay, you're okay. You can stay there. And what you can do there is you can upload your own pictures. Once you're approved, you can upload your own pictures. And okay, here's that. Share screen. Share. Okay. So you come up here and you sign in. I go to users, and this guy, these three top people here are what do you call bots? So this one here, amateur porn. So I can pretty well figure out that guy's a bot or a girl's a bot, whoever she is, whoever it is.
Well,
And-
did you check out that website?
my computer won't let me even go there. That's how bad it is. I don't know who this guy, but it's Richard F up.
Right.
So anyway, I dump people when they, like that. And this guy's gonna have to re-sign in because I don't know who I need a name.
That's me.
Okay. Can we download the pictures of our camp for that other people put in there?
Well, that's the whole idea is you can upload a file into any albums. I've got an album for every camp. So on the album list, I think you can download them, but the fact is what you really should be doing is you should be uploading them. So 8 attachments under B40. Let's see what we got here. B attachments, B43. 8 attachment under B40.
How
So
about under
you have these camps, 404.
there's 401, 402. Yeah, there's 402 that I was with.
3,
And
4. And then these are all
405.
TDY teams that came in.
Okay.
Or no.
I don't, yeah, nothing there on 405.
Yeah, I don't see 405.
Well,
No.
here it is down below.
All right.
Oh, okay.
405. So let's see, there aren't any images there.
Nope.
This is the airboat site. Has pictures here.
Well, that'd be A403 or 404. I'm sorry.
But anyway, you can load pictures up and you can put captions in. Let's see what this is. Okay, so here's a caption on that picture.
Mhm.
And if you came back and said, no, I'm the third guy from the left, you could add that. So it's a nice website and I don't have to do any work on it. It's your job.
Yeah, is that,
That's a good thing.
but on the very bottom of that picture, does it say Captain Tenario?
Yeah.
That is hilarious because he pulled a 45 on me and put it right against my forehead.
Well, his name is Santos Tenario. That's definitely his name.
Right. Yep.
There were 2 Tenarios. One of them is in Guam, and the other one I think is deceased.
Okay, this one that I was talking about was down at Canto when he in the C team.
Yeah, he got around, but the enlisted man was a weapons sergeant, and he lives in Guam now.
Okay, no, I'm talking about the officer.
Yeah, well, that's him.
Because, yep, that's funny. I apologize for mentioning anything about his sister.
All right. Okay, so
Oh.
that's information on this website. And I hope that you'll sign up and take advantage of it, put things up there, things like the patches and whatnot.
Right.
Would be a good place for that kind of stuff. One other little bit, most of you will probably already have it, but you remember
Yep.
the monthly magazines we had. I put them
Yeah.
out as a 5-volume set, all 52 magazines, and
Yep.
I index the hell out of them.
Yeah, I've owned that for years, that
Yeah.
set.
So
And I have a few of the originals also.
yeah, save the originals because they're running at about $60 a copy on eBay. And
Wow.
I haven't had it for years. I've had it for about an hour and a half. Came in the mail earlier
You
this
got it in
morning.
the mail today, right? That's right. Yeah, you ordered last week and whoop, there it is.
Huh. And
So,
how about a stable? I got a stable rig out in my bunch of stuff. And somebody's been harping about, you ought to sell it. And I says, no, I'm just going to keep it around, probably give it to some museum.
well, the guy who seems to make the market on this is a guy by the name of Jason Hardy that advertises in the Drop.
Mhm.
And everybody that I've referred to him has come back to me and said he gives really good prices. And the reason he gives really good prices is he's the market maker on this whole thing. If he owns it, if he had his hands on it, then
Mhm.
it's authenticated. He's got pictures of the guy from. He knows everything about it, and his stuff sells for a lot of money. So he pays a lot of money to get it.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's good. But I don't know what his particular interests are. Usually it's on things that have a meaning to some specific person. I don't know about the stable rig unless.
Oh, he had it
you-
listed. Yeah,
Okay.
he had it listed that he wanted them.
Okay, well, he's the guy to talk to. Whatever it is, he'll give you the best price. As I said, I'm not ready to give up stuff I have. Not that I'm going to do anything with it, but I want to keep it during my lifetime. But don't want my kids to sell it at a garage sale.
No, my kids said they would not. Matter of fact, my oldest daughter said she wants to be the historian of the family.
Good.
So, yes.
Well, the website is going to stay up there long after I'm gone. So I made provisions for that. It's not going to change. You're not going to be able to add anything to it. The picture website probably you can add things to it, but the Special Forces books will stay there just as it is. So that's going to be useful, I hope, to some of our grandchildren to find out what Daddy did during the war,
Mm-hmm.
what Grandpa did during the war.
Yep. My kids asked me why I want to be buried in Arlington, and I said, because my great, great, great grandchildren can go to Arlington and say, there's my great, great, great grandfather, rather than finding a little patch of grass somewhere else.
Yep. You're in good company in Arlington.
Yes, exactly. Like-minded people.
Look, why don't we go through the people that are here and talk for 2-3 minutes. Mention the time you were at the camp, what you did at the camp, and then what you did after you left the camp and up to today. If you need a little bit more than 2 or 3 minutes, we've got the time. Why don't we start with Gordon, since he's the earliest?
Okay, I got at Tien in, let me check here. This 66, early 66. I stayed about 6 months. I was the executive officer. And then I was banished to Makwa, the B team. And I was the adjutant, had to take care of all that damn paperwork. I was there for about 6 months. And then I went back to the States for 18 months, volunteered to go back to Vietnam. And requested going back to Special Forces. I ended up in CCS, MACV-SOG, and my final assignment was a recon company commander. Any questions?
What'd you do when you got out of the military?
I retired. My last
Okay.
assignment was as a battalion advisor to the National Guard, and I was thinking about getting out, and that decided me. So I retired.
All right, Dennis, you're second.
Yeah, I got to A-405. I believe it was, well, it was early July of '67. Stayed there until we closed the camp. We turned it over to, I forget the nomenclature, but it was a Vietnamese unit. But basically, we got rid of all of our equipment one way or the other. It was a damn shame. I know we had a bunch of old weapons in the storeroom. Plus, we had a lot of like tiger fatigues and things like that. We would trade those tiger fatigues for food to the Navy because they would bring in the swift boats that would come into High Tien. That was the only place they could put feet on the ground. And we had a couple of bars there and one whorehouse with 3 old ugly whores in it, but probably looked good to those Navy guys. We of course did not frequent that, being right there at town. And so I stayed there, like I said, until we closed it down. I went back to Canto. I really don't, just did some miscellaneous things around Canto until we started assembling the team for A-416, which was median high. And we spent several months then putting the team together, getting equipment together, and that sort of thing. Then we went out on January the 16th, I believe, was the day that we first put boots on the ground out there. We immediately had some combat operations, which we did not expect, but found out that we had actually decided to build an A camp right in the middle of a VC battalion area. Well, we found a lot of stuff around there, and they had a hospital and munitions and all that sort of thing. So it was
Fun time.
yeah, I stayed there until I was, let's see, my captain, McCarver, was the commander at that time, and he got wounded, and we had another guy killed, and one of our senior sergeants left there and got killed like 2 days later. And it's time for me to go back. They offered me a promotion to captain, but because I had the time at that point, but they wanted me to re-enlist, so I declined. So I got out of the Army at that time. I immediately joined the Special Forces Reserve Unit in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and stayed in that unit for a long time, as long as I could, until they promoted me against my wishes. Then I went back to school. I'd had a year at the University of North Carolina before I went into the Army, and I went back to school, finished undergraduate and went to law school there, practiced law, different places. And I went with the Attorney General's office in North Carolina, and I was Deputy Attorney General. And after retired from that, I have continued to work with Oak Grove, that outfit that runs Robin Sage exercises. And so I still work with them some. I go out and then do some role play, as different things, just to I love seeing those young soldiers and being able to interact with them. So I'm still doing that. I live in Wilmington, North Carolina now, and life is good.
Tom Nelson, you come in the story as the camp reopens.
Yeah, I got there in about October of '68, and Lytel was, and at first they sent me to B team, and I did communications work for them, and including sent me out to off Nuekoto Mountain. I became the central radio operator there while there was some fighting going on. And they sent me back in the C team and B team rather, in Canto, and then Lytel recruited me into the new A-405.
Right.
They need a recon company, and since I was Ranger qualified, he recruited me. And then I spent most of the time there out off Nuekoto Mountain. We sold to that several times before, and just as they took it and they brought down B-55, I think, to help B-40 take Nuekoto Mountain. They sent me to train some up near Cameron Bay to train some troops and as paratroopers. I returned, and then I just spent some time doing recon work around Nuekoto after we had already captured it, and got out in September of '69. My parents had moved to Hawaii, so I came to Hawaii, and I've been here ever since. And then went to school for 6 years, got to a couple degrees, and then I spent about 10 years drinking too much, traveling the world, working odd jobs, everything from construction to what have you. And then eventually I ended up being a school teacher in Hawaii for 30 years, and I'm retired from that.
When you open up the camp at 405, that started in Canto. You weren't in any other place.
No, it was in Canto. In fact, we built a building there for the troops, and Lytel was recruiting people for the position, and also he borrowed troops from various other A teams to be part of the new recon company, A-405.
I can further expand on that because I got recruited for it from A-413, and I brought down part of our combat reconnaissance platoon down there to Canto, because I had already known those troops for almost 2 years almost.
Well, Lytel had told me that the other A teams were very generous. They didn't just send any troops. They sent some ones that had some experience. And so they were a good group of Cambodians there.
Yep.
Does anyone remember Navy SEALs operating around the Canto area? I mean, Tien area?
No.
No,
No.
Because in '67, I was sent to MacV to be interviewed by this Navy officer to act as a liaison for some SEALs that were going to be operating out of Hotien area. And I was the second one to get interviewed for that job. Before I could go, the person I replaced got wounded, and I was sent back to my team. And I never heard any more about it. I wonder if they just canceled the operation.
Well, they did operate out of the along the river up there by Muckwa. They did operate up in that area, but they were not using swift boats. They were using the PBRs.
Huh.
And
Also, there were a lot of SEALs who were assigned in Four Corps for one reason or another as the PRU advisors on a province level.
right,
So from 68 onward, you'll see a bunch of SEALs operating in 1 and 2 people at
whereas
province capital.
those of us who worked with the Navy boats, the PBRs, Patrol Boat River, were awarded the Navy Meritorious Citation. And there was probably 30 of us or so, I don't know how many, but we worked, spent a lot of time on the PBRs. And also they had up there was a PAC-V, a great big air cushion thing that belonged to the Army. And put troops on that.
Yeah, I remember those at Muckwa
Yes.
during the flood.
Mm-hmm. And I had a 66 or 67, I'm trying to think of the fall of it, when they had the big flood. And Captain Merchek gave me a platoon of airboats. And love those damn things. You couldn't hear anybody shooting at you, though. You'd find the bullet holes in the boat when you got back.
I remember Merchek. I went in operation with his detachment one time. With various boats.
Didn't you?
Well, at the old Tien camp on that little peninsula, I believe there were a couple of Navy installations. One in particular was an intelligence shop. I think it was called Nilo. And there are a couple of books written about Navy intelligence coming out of that area. I don't know if they found anything. I think they spent most of their time at the beach.
That sounds about right.
We had an Air Force team that showed up in flight suits one time. They were going on that hill across the river that overlooked the airstrip. They set up some kind of relay operation or something for the B-52s were flying up the along the border. And they were there for, I don't know, a couple of weeks and caused nothing but trouble.
Yeah, they set up beacons so the B-52s could use the beacons to determine exactly where they were. And
Okay.
bomb from those beacons. Jerry, you
Yeah.
were the last of the people here at 405.
Right.
So why don't you go through the whole spiel?
Well, I got there pretty much around the time Nelson, did you say it was Nelson? Did he say he got there in the September of 69?
I left in September '69.
Okay, that's when I arrived there. And right at the September, October timeframe. And like you said, we went out and did recon around Nui Koto, out in the tram out there. And then when they were breaking them down in February or January and February, and we were sort of doled out to different A teams, I got to A-402 with my troops. But I'm going to back up to when I first got to Vietnam. I got there September 1966 and went out to A-413, Bin Tan Ton, and stayed out there for 18 months and went through the floods and everything. Loved it out there. I mean, we had a lot of casualties, and most of the SF guys on the team were the DPs from Europe, as they were all World War II vets or guerrilla warfare guys. And then I left
What's a BP?
Oh, a DP, displaced person.
Okay.
Yeah, they were Polish, Czechoslovakian, Yugoslavian. We even had a couple of Germans, Peter Astalos was a German artilleryman during World War II. And Civitas Deke also was, I believe, German. But after that 18 months, I went down to Panama, spent, first of all, language school, then down to Panama. So I was away from Vietnam for 1 year, volunteered to go back, and I got right back at BTT in March of 1969 and headed over to, I stayed there for probably almost 6 months. And that's when I went down to Canton, bringing troops with me, because BTT, we had the rumblings that they were going to close it, but they didn't close for a while longer. And went down there to 405, stayed there until they moved us over into the A teams of B40. And then in March 4th, 1970, I was hit taking a North Vietnamese prisoner out there to the west of the Seven Mountains. And they wouldn't let me go back. I went through 3 different hospitals in country, and they wouldn't let me go back because of my eyesight to an A team. So they kept me there as I was a medic. So they kept me at C team. But I worked out at Ben Tui Hospital, or the 3rd Surgical, with the Special Forces doctor that was out there for about 5 months, 6 months. And then I went from there to Thailand. After I left there and everything, I spent probably, I would say, most of my time in Panama. In that 6 months or that year that I was away from Vietnam, the split tours, I spent language school in Spanish and then 6 months down in Panama and then back to Vietnam. But after the military, well, the end of my military, when I retired as a team sergeant, but I spent 3 years teaching ROTC at College of William and Mary as my final tour. And I finished off my degree. I found out that I had a knack for math and science. And my second career started with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, and became a biologics specialist, and stayed there for 17.5 years. And I took a second retirement from them. And ever since then, I live now in the Space Coast here in Florida, and wouldn't change it for anything. My wife passed on a couple years ago. So my kids are all up around Williamsburg, Virginia. So that's pretty much what my life has been.
Okay. Larry, you were as a B team. You weren't actually at 405, but why don't you come in at this point?
Well, the reason I'm on is because I saw A-421, and that was Boswai, and I didn't, until we clarified it earlier today, I didn't realize the background, and I missed the A-421 last week because I had to be in court. One minimally interesting thing I did to get to Special Forces when I was at SFOC at Bragg in 68, Colonel Aaron came through. As I recall, he was the 1st group commander and getting ready to rotate in to be the 5th group commander. And I went up and talked to him because a lot of we lieutenants, brand new lieutenants, were going over, even though we're SF qualified, going to the AmeriCal division. I said, how do I get there? And he says, well, we need PsyOps people. So if you're a PsyOps guy, why do that and let me know. So the next day I went to the place and got a correspondence course, took all the correspondence work to be a PsyOps officer, and went up to 6th group headquarters and give a 5th of whiskey to the clerk, and he cut orders making me a PsyOps officer. So when I got orders to go to Vietnam, I wrote Colonel Aaron a letter, says, here I come. And when I arrived, I think at Ben Tui, as I recall, hell, there was an E6 and a Jeep waiting there for me, picked me up and took me on to Nha Trang. So I did not go to the AmeriCal division. after the cock course, I went down, you mentioned Nui Kodo. I was a kind of a liaison guy between that and the special tactical zone for about a month when they were B-55 was assaulting Nui Kodo. And from there, I went into B-40. I was S5, worked there for about 6 months. And literally somebody at the C team found out I could read and write, which was a shock because that was never my forte. And I got drug over to the C team headquarters after about 6 months to be the assistant S1. So I was in the Feisenheimer's Folly. I don't know whether you all remember the Feisenheimer's Folly, the pyramid over at Canto. I spent 6 months in an air-conditioned bunker writing awards and stuff. The best preparation I ever had to go to law school. And I literally spent 11 months there, and I had never been shot at, didn't have a CIB, and it was just a damn embarrassment. So I volunteered to extend for a period of time if I got to go to an A team, and they sent me out to Boswife, which is why I'm here.
Where they mortared the shit out of you out there.
Oh shit! Well, I mean that's another story. I mean, I've been there about an hour, and the Vietnamese started running around, and I believe the word was Muy Dien, Muy Dien, Muy Dien. I said, what the hell does Muy Dien mean? And all of a sudden, whoop, 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 and I read, well, that's Vietnamese for incoming. So, and I think that's the word, but I swore I'd never forget that. So I spent, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6 months there. Came back home, went to law school, joined the 12th Special Forces Reserve Group, spent damn near 20 years there, ultimately got promoted out of a job. And one of my friends got me assigned, somebody mentioned Hawaii, to Westcom. I was assigned as a Special Forces officer, as a major, to Fort Bragg and further assigned to Westcom in Hawaii. Fort Shafter went, and I would go to Fort Shafter like 3, 4, 5, 6 times for a 2-week summer camp as a Mob Des. And unfortunately, they didn't have quarters, so they put us up on Waikiki Beach. I stayed in the Royal Hawaiian for 2 weeks. It was far enough away, they gave us a rental car. So and ultimately got promoted to lieutenant colonel there, and probably had, I don't know, 4 or 5 trips to Hawaii once a year for 6 months, staying on Waikiki Beach. I mean, just a hell of a deal. So, but ultimately got out. I practiced law and still do, for 45 years. I'm now the senior partner in the oldest law firm in Oklahoma. Still practice law, class actions across the country. And that's pretty much my story.
You went to Hawaii from Enid, Oklahoma?
You betcha.
And
couldn't swim
for 2 weeks.
And could not swim. I flunked the swimming test at Fort Bragg. I grew up on a farm in Oklahoma and never could swim, and that was always my greatest fear when parachuting. If I landed in a goddamn lake or river, I was a dead man. But I learned how to swim at 55. So
I saw the notation when I was looking for you about the oldest law firm in Oklahoma. But the impression I have was that you were there when it was founded.
no, not quite. Not quite. The guy that founded it did the run in 1893. The lawyer from Kansas came down on the train.
Right. So it was the oldest law firm, not the longest serving lawyer.
That is correct. I've practiced law like 45 years now and still do on good days. And had a ball. The Special Forces experience was just absolutely marvelous.
Did anybody go back to Vietnam after the war?
I was back there in 95. I stayed there for about a month or so. And there are just too many banners of Ho Chi Minh to make it appealing.
I was there in about 10 years ago. I went all the way down to Canto with Mike Hammers, who had been the C team.
Mhm.
and, or the B team rather. And he and I went and we rented a van and they drove us out to Nui Koto Mountain. And so that was, a lot of memories there. It was a little spooky being back there. And then we got all the way up to Hanoi. As Mike said, never thought we'd get that far north. And people were real nice to us, and the kids would surround us and want to take pictures, these young teenagers. And we were kind of flabbergasted because we've been out there killing their grandfathers.
Where's my camera? As I recall, my memory is bad, but I was the S5 at B40, and I think he was my capo enlisted guy. I haven't seen him in
He
45
was on yesterday, on one of the Zoom sessions yesterday.
Where's
He
he
lives
live?
up in Washington.
Okay.
He lives up in the state of Washington off the, he was a insurance salesman. He's retired now.
You still live in Hawaii, you say?
Yeah, out in the Big Island, not in Oahu.
Oh, okay, okay.
But I know what you're talking about, the Royal Hawaiian and all the rest.
It's interesting. I'll never forget the first night I landed at the airport. It was night, and I drove downtown, went to the Royal Hawaiian, and you couldn't quite tell what was going on. And I woke up the next morning and went down to the lobby, and you look out the Royal Hawaiian main entrance, and you look on to Waikiki Beach and could see the ocean. And it just, it's quite a shock, because the night before it was all dark and it couldn't see squat other than a lot of lights and towers. I thought it was like New York City, but the Royal Hawaiian was just kind of an island there amongst all those trees. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yep. Because now I wanted to get your name that was on A-405 and has that patch. Because I want to be able to, you can probably
Dennis,
email back to me.
Yeah,
Dennis?
I wrote your name down. You'll have
Good.
to give me your email.
Oh, you don't have my email there?
I don't know. I haven't.
on the
Okay.
email I sent out,
Pardon?
to tell you about the meeting, everybody's email is on there.
Look
Okay,
up
Okay,
above.
good.
So you can contact,
Email back and forth. Yep.
you can contact the other people that didn't show up and tell them what they missed. I have to move on. I've got other things to do. I've been working on this project for about 8 months. And today will be the last camp. B40 is the next one, and that's the end.
Mm.
But you can Zoom, you can have a free 40-minute session without signing up for anything. Just open it, and you can invite people to come and do the same thing you're doing here.
One of your links, you had a lot of places where you had saved these, but there were a lot of them you did not yet have a link on it. For example, the B421 did not have a link on it, even though you'd had one of these a couple of weeks ago. Is that?
Yeah, I have all the videos already done, but the girl who's supposed to process it and edit it is way behind because there's so much of it. I'm thinking that what I might do is I might release unedited versions of it. I've got all the videos stored away. So if you look at I-Corps, she finished editing all the camps in I-Corps. You can see what a good job she did. If I put it out there, it's going to be fairly raw and without some of the stuff that she can do. But I don't think that I should wait that long for her. So I'm probably going to do them at a slow pace because I've got to get back on a couple of projects that I put off to the side. And by the time I get into this deeply, it'll be time to do taxes again.
How old are you now, by the way?
I'm 79.
Okay, I'm 78, coming up on 79. So, yep, I understand.
Well,
I'm 86.
You're 86?
I'm 86. I'm counting down.
well,
You're looking good.
I don't know if you guys remember the Sergeant Major out there at B40. Oh my, it just fell out of my head. But he is 97 and still out there.
Geez,
Wow.
That would have been let's see, a Malika, Leonard Malika, 67, 68, 97 years old. He says he's not very mobile, but his voice is strong. I was impressed.
I guess I'm gonna have to be deferential to all you guys because I'm only 75.
What made it really easy at this time to go looking for people is I never looked at anybody who was less than 70 years old. So once I cut that part of the population out, it was a lot easier to find people.
That's true.
Yeah.
Fellas, I'm gonna have to sign off. Got something else to do here, but I've thoroughly enjoyed this, and Stephen, I especially appreciate all your time and effort that you have put into this. Means a lot to a lot of people.
Well,
Amen.
I'll call
this is
you.
an oral history that we're saving
Yeah.
that is not going to be available anywhere else. You guys were told stories, each of these sessions of stories about things that are just not really recorded in history books. How things were done at the camps, what happened. It's really good to have these kinds of sessions. I think we have to thank COVID-19 for giving us all the experience to work with Zoom.
Yep.
Okay.
And I want to thank you also.
I'm gonna sign off.
Godspeed. God bless you all.
All right, thank you.
All right, the B40 session will be in what, about an hour and a half, I guess.
Right.
So we can stay on here. I'll keep the tape going.
Well, I'm gonna sign off also. And Gerald, I've got 2 of those scarves. I'll unpack them somewhere and either take a picture or send you one of them.
Oh, God, that would be something that I would just be so proud to have again. Because
All
when
right.
I'll tell you what, I actually cried when I lost all my stuff. I was down in Honduras and my roommate back in Fort Bragg didn't pay I left her $1,400 to pay my bills while I was gone. And she didn't pay for my storage and they got rid of it.
Oh,
And
what
that
a
was
shame.
all of my pictures from Vietnam, all of my awards, certificates, all that. And plus my black pajamas and my camos. And so I have very few pictures of any of that time over there. My time
That's a
was,
shame.
yep. Is I got all the pictures I had riding in the 2-man and 3-man sampans and all the different boats that we used up there in the Plain of Jars or Plain of Reeds. So, yeah, if you can run across one of those that you can part with, I would be just so proud to have it.
I think I have 2 of them, Gerald, so I'll if I can find 2 of them, I'll send you one of them.
Thank you. Yeah. I'll get with you on email and
All right.
we go back and forth. Yep.
All right. All right,
And,
gentlemen.
yeah, I need to sign off also. So it was proud to talk with all of you today. It was just fantastic. Brought back a lot of memories.
And Stephen, thanks for all your work.
Well, it's been fun doing this.
Good.
You know,
You probably know more about the war in Vietnam as far as special forces than any person that's in special forces either before or now.
Well, that's a goal that I set, and I hope that I've been able to complete that. But I also have been involved in other broader histories of what's going on. And I'm a group of people called Vietnam Veterans for Factual History, VVFH. And
Do you know did anybody or has any organization ever tried to compile the after action reports for each camp?
well, after action reports for each camp are quite difficult. But let me show you here. This is a compilation of after action reports from B40. Okay, so going back to 66, they're not complete. The Mike Force was not good at doing consistent after action reports. Two
You're
corps,
right.
they were very good at it, and Delta was outstanding. But the Mike Force, no. But you can hear. We'll go to 69, for example. Here's Nui Koto, and that's one after action report. And this is a good one that was done up in the Trang by the Military History Detachment. Go back. Delta 1. Okay. So there's an after action report. By the way, I didn't mention, I should have said something about it. This 44th Special Tactical Zone is very interesting, and most people are not aware of it. It was set up after the Tet Offensive in 68. And the fellow who was the province chief, I think it was Chow Dup, in 68 was moved to take over special forces. His name was Phu Van Pham, or Pham Van Phu. He took over special forces for a couple of months in 68. And his replacement was Win Hu Han. And he was there in charge of the 44th Special Tactical Zone way up until about 1975, I think. At which point he went to Saigon and was in the Joint Chiefs of Staff, whatever it was over there. Hackworth was one of his advisors. A lot of SF people were the senior advisors to 44th Special Tactical Zone. But Hackworth wrote about this guy in his book, About Face. And Hackworth, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Hackworth.
Yeah.
But he has a big mouth, very proud of himself. He writes in his book how he's the only guy who knew how to operate a war like this. And what he did was to pay off his counterpart so that he could run the operations in 44th Special Tactical Zone. And when he said that, he described it. He said, I let him spend $5,000 in MPC, which was illegal for him to have, in our little PX.
All right, well, I'm going to sign off here, Stephen.
Okay.
Catch you later.
And that's equivalent to about $15,000 a month in value. Turns out on the day that Saigon fell, he was inside. This guy Win Hu Han was in Saigon, and he was given the job of bringing the surrender message to the radio station. He brought the surrender message to the radio station. He went back to his apartment and he changed into his North Vietnamese Army uniform. Win Hu Han was the highest ranking North Vietnamese Army officer in the South Vietnamese Army. And Hackworth was paying him $15,000, letting him have $15,000 a month that he was using
Wow.
Wow.
as a resource. And Hackworth never found out about it, never cared about it, never did anything about it. I don't know. So anyway, it was kind of interesting.
Yes, very. Yeah,
So
yes. You know, you mentioned about the money is when everything was falling apart in 71, is there was a Lieutenant O'Toole, which I've never run across before, but he was promotable to captain. I was designated from the C team there, the C4, to go with him over towards the coastline to meet up with a guy by the name of, oh geez, what's his name? But he was with the Cambodians that were in Vietnam, and they formed basically a brigade, and they were flying him out of Canton over to Phnom Penh. But we took 2 huge mail bags full of piastres in order to pay off, to bring all these troops in groups from all these villages, these Cambodian villages, over near the coastline to Canton to get flown over to Phnom Penh. And it was a very interesting trip because we paying all of him in these huge piles of money so that he could pay off the Vietnamese as he brought the people to Canton.
that probably was a different O'Toole than I have. I have a George O'Toole who was killed as a captain in '67. So this is somebody else.
No, yep, be a different one.
He was he special forces or not?
He was special forces.
And O'Toole, huh?
Yep. And I think he may have came out of Nha Trang, but he came down there. And when the money was handed to me, the 2 big bags, I said, "Where do I sign?" And they said, "You don't." So it was unsigned for money, and all in bundles. 2 huge mail sacks.
Now this is going beyond the time that you were wounded. All right. So you were
Yes, it is. It's after the time after I was wounded, because I was attached down there to the C team and working out there in the medical area. But somebody saw that I had a lot of recon experience, and I had worked with Cambodians the whole time I had been in Vietnam, both tours. And I spoke a little bit of Cambodian, but I got along with them real well. And we had a Cambodian driver that happened to come from our camp. And I'm trying to remember.
When would you place that in time? If you were wounded in March.
Right. That would have been, it would have been all the way up into probably the, I would say maybe between July and September.
Yeah, I would have thought it was a little early. I thought it would be about mid-June.
It might have been.
The reason this is important is there are people among them was Sihanouk, who wrote in his book, which was written by a communist from New Zealand, that there were special forces people. No, there were Mike Force people guarding the public buildings on April 30th when Lon Nol did his coup.
Okay, that would make sense.
And no, there weren't. Those people were Fulro. They're Montagnards that had come over earlier with Sam. And those people were there. But it wasn't until June. The coup was April 30th, the end of April.
Right.
And it wasn't until at least June that the 3 Corps and 4 Corps Mike forces started sending people over to help Lon Nol.
That makes sense then. If it could be June then. And
as long as it was later
Oh, I
June or
know.
later?
I just remember the name of the guy that was the commander of this brigade that was coming out of the woodwork. Chaw Na Ree.
How are you
And-
spelling that?
I couldn't tell you. Chaw, Chau. Na was maybe N-A. Ree, R-Y-E, Ree, or something like that. But the spelling could be very wrong. But he had told he wanted to know if they should bring their weapons, and we said, no, leave your weapons with your families, and you'll be given all new uniforms and weapons. When they got to Canto, they all, when they had them in formation, they put their uniforms on, brand new uniforms. They were not camouflaged. And at a certain signal that was given to them, they ripped their Vietnamese ID cards and threw them in the air. And they climbed on board C-47s and C-46s that said Air Cambodia on them. And they flew on over to Phnom Penh. And that kept going on day after day. So, yeah, it could have been June.
Hold on a minute here. Seven. Let me call somebody up over here. Do you know the name Chow Na Ree? Yeah. It could be something like that. We're not too good at spelling. It sounds like a lady. Well, this definitely wasn't a lady. Jerry,
Yeah,
he definitely wasn't a lady, right?
no, it was not. It was definitely a guy.
It was definitely a guy.
And from
Are you on a computer? Hold on, Jerry. Are you on a computer right now? No, okay. All right. All right. I will send you a link. And just when you get it, just click on the link and come on up here. We just finished up a discussion and we're talking about moving people from Vietnam to Cambodia in 1970. Right? He was the guy sort of in charge of the civilian movement, but they really weren't very civilian. Okay. All right. Anyway, let me send this out and you get on your computer and come on up here. Okay. All right. Bye.
See, I used to be able to tell you the province that was over there by the South China Sea that was primarily Cambodian, even though that they were all the way over by the South China Sea off the forecourt. If you just follow the Mekong River onto the coastline, and
Well, Tak was one of the staff people for Sun Nak Tan, who was the Khmer Sarai leader, and he was up in 3 Corps.
yeah, I don't know if ours were KKK or Khmer Sarai.
In 4 Corps, it was mostly KKK.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but he is very active in the Cambodian community in the
Okay.
States.
Uh-huh.
So, and he lives here in Houston, so I know him well. And let's see if he can make it up here. So let me get rid of some of this junk.
You know, I'm just thinking back now to that time, and that First Lieutenant O'Toole
Mhm.
it seemed like, remember back then, it seemed odd that he was very unmilitary. And I had thought to myself, I thought, maybe he's not even in the Army.
You may be right, because I don't have an O'Toole that's a lieutenant in special forces at that time.
Mhm.
And there's very few people who are not in my database.
Right.
So
This guy's trying to call in to you?
that's what he should be doing. You got to go turn his computer on.
Oh, okay. If he's like me, it takes 5 minutes for my old computer to come up.
Yeah, that's a problem. So while I was, I spent about 8 years not working on that website. So I felt it incumbent upon me to go back one more time. And that's what I've been doing for the last 8 months. But in that 8-year period of time, this group of people that I put together.
Uh-huh.
There we go.
Oh, there you go, right there.
14-volume series on Vietnam.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it's really a pretty good history.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be a narrative history. It has like 12 essays for each year on things that I felt were important to have.
Mm-hmm.
Found people to write who are experts to write it up. So,
Wow.
and really interesting stuff.
Oh yeah.
One of the articles in '73 was what happened to all the CIDG camps when they got turned over to Border Rangers.
Well, I noticed that when I go on Google Earth, I found BTT, and the camp basically is there. There's one more building added to it. And then the villages that all built up around it and all the farming. But the camp is still, you can see the Pentagon shape of it. And I said, there's just too many mines that are in the area, because one of the sides of the Pentagon was the side of a triangle of the old French fort that was there. And there was mines everywhere. So inside, I asked somebody about it. It looked like it had been taken care of inside the camp. And I talked to a Vietnamese one day, and they said, oh, resettlement or re-education camp. So
Out there, clear the lines.
yeah, it's just it's so far out in the middle of nowhere. It's a perfect place for it.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to you, I think last time we talked about the nurse that's located right here in Orlando at the VA hospital, was born in Muckwa. From what she had been tracked down was a Navy SEAL.
But her father? Jerry, you just lost your microphone. There you go.
Yeah. My roommate was trying to call me for the third time. I have a young female that I sort of taken under my wing. She's turned 51 today, and I'm her conscience.
Her conscience.
Yes, I tell her what's good and bad about her boyfriends, but she's great to have around here. She cooks, she cleans, washes clothes, and it's nice companionship. Takes care of my dog when I'm not here, and she works. She works hard, and my own kids like her. And she tells me when I have to refill my pills and get the prescriptions and doctor's visits.
Well, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if my friend is going to make it up here or not. It looks like he's falling behind. I'm going to shut off recording over here.